Hey guys, welcome to another banner review video in Xcaliblur Global. In this video, I'll be covering the banner where both Inanna and Alexei will be the featured characters. As always, you can also use the timestamp in the video description to skip ahead to the section that you are interested in. Starting off with Alexei. Alexei is a defender class character who doesn't play like any defender class character at all. Alexei's main function is actually to deal damage, and the thing he has going for him is that he can become invulnerable. He's the only unit in the game that can gain invulnerability and cannot be killed off until it wears off on its own, and that ties into his trait, which is on the top right hand corner. I included a description on his trait between 1 star versus 5 stars so that you can see the difference, because where Alexei is concerned, the invulnerability ties very strongly to how many stars he is. At 5 stars, his invulnerability lasts for 2 rounds. It also gives him the toughness effect, which disregards the penalty that you get when you're in injured or dying status. And finally, assuming he's at 5 stars, he gets attack plus 40% once his invulnerability kicks in. His invulnerability does also have a cooldown of 7 turns. In contrast, anything below 5 stars and his invulnerability lasts only for 1 round. So having 5 stars is pretty important because it doubles the duration of his invulnerability. Now if we go to his skills, one of his core skills is actually his default skill, which is Whirlwind Axe. This is a 3 energy but no cooldown AoE damage, which is always very nice. But this is one of his key skills, and I would also recommend to use this because if this skill kills any unit, it reduces the cooldown of his trait by 1 turn. Now, 2 more other active skills that I think should accompany this is his rank 7 Gore Drinker, which is a passive ability that gives him a stacking buff that increases his damage by 20% and grants him a 20% lifesteal, stacks up to 3 times, so this can be absolutely massive. And finally, rank 11 Counter Attack Storm, because this drastically increases his counter attack damage and combos nicely with his rank 5 reaction, which is on the left hand side, that allows him to strike back anytime he is attacked. There are also 2 optional abilities or passive that I want to highlight. One is his rank 1 Fight to the Death, which is a passive that increases his attack and defense by 20% anytime he is in dying status, and it's always nice to pick up early game that synergizes very well with his invulnerability. The other is his rank 7 skill, Anger of Icefield. This is an active attack that gives him a charging attack, and the main reason why I want to mention this skill is this at least helps his mobility. It allows him to charge for 3 tiles and closing the gap very quickly towards the enemy group. So both his rank 1 and rank 7 are definitely options. For example, you may not sometimes want to bring his rank 7 Gore Drinker because it does require Alexei getting hit. So if that doesn't happen very often, then maybe his rank 1 can better fit the bill for that particular fight because it's an active that's always up as long as he is in dying status. Or if you really need Alexei to close in the gap very quickly, then you can bring in his rank 7 skill to do so. So putting all his skills together, Alexei is one of those units where you want him to really go in up front to the enemy's face and do as much damage as possible, and he actually wants to get hit by the enemy because it triggers a lot of his passives as well as his counter attack, and he doesn't mind getting hit anyway since he eventually will gain invulnerability for up to 2 turns depending on his star level of his trait. All things considered, Alexei does have the unique ability to really gain true immortality, albeit for a very short duration of time. if you expect him to focus on his counter attack damage for example giving him the tower turrets cut, he can have the potential to deal quite a lot of damage, especially to teams who underestimate his damage potential and maybe forget that he is under the invulnerability or immortality status. However, there are some very glaring weaknesses in his kit. First of all, while he can gain invulnerability, Alexei himself is not immune to any bound status, so for example he can be inflicted with stun or sleep. And during those turns where he is immobilized, his invulnerability is ticking down, so he's wasting his precious turns of invulnerability there. On top of this, a lot of his damage potential relies on him getting hit. However, Alexei himself doesn't carry any taunt capabilities, and he has almost no cover assist capabilities as well. He does have one guard ability at rank 11 that gives him cover assist, but that only works once per round, and you have to choose between that versus his counter attack storm or sacrifice a Castelia to unlock both. So although he does do very good counter attack damage, the opponent can also just choose not to attack him or to only use AoE attacks to land on him, that way bypassing his counter attack capabilities. On top of this, he really needs 5-star trait to fully excel. He does do, I guess, okay at maybe 3 stars or 4 stars, but it's really bad that anything below 5 stars and his invulnerability only lasts for a single turn. To me, that is a huge difference versus the 2 turns he can potentially have at 5 stars. Next up, we have Inanna, the Princess of Iria. For those fairly new to the game and not aware, Inanna is probably one of the best, if not the best, healers in the game outright. Her trait allows healing automatically of either 1 or 2 allies nearby, depending on how many star trait she has at the end of her turn, and it also allows her to start the battle with a free defender unit next to her. It is worth noting that the defender unit has a global guard skill which grants it cover assist, and it also has the ability to land a speed down debuff on an enemy via a single target active attack skill. Inanna already comes with a default healing spell that heals 100% of magic attack and dispels 1 debuff on any target nearby. Dispelling debuffs is also pretty central to what Inanna can do, and this is also featured across many of her other abilities. Contrary to other legendary units, Inanna actually unlocks 2 of her core skills very early on. At rank 1, she unlocks what is probably the best skill and is one of the best reasons to go and pull for Inanna, which is the Princess Prayer skill. This skill allows Inanna to allow any unit to act again while granting that unit the attack 2 and magic defense 2 buff for 2 turns. Acting again while getting the attack 2 buff is very juicy, and needless to say, in any strategy RPG games, getting to act twice in a single round is always very powerful, and because of this, Inanna also has very long relevance in the meta, because even though she may eventually fall behind in the meta, the ability to give any other unit, which includes your best DPS at the time, the ability to act twice in 1 round is always going to be relevant. At rank 3, Inanna unlocks her AoE healing capability called Princess's Comfort. This is an AoE heal that heals all allies within 2 tiles away of Inanna and also dispels 2 of their debuffs. Now beyond these 3, so her default healing spell, Princess Prayer and Princess Comfort, there are 3 additional skills or passives that are optional, and you can mix and match these to replace her default healing spell and just rely on her AoE healing for heals depending on the need. So at rank 3, she gained the ability called Guard. This allows Inanna to either reposition her defender unit or resummon a new one, although with limitations depending on how many star trait she has, and it's certainly an option if you are in a battle that requires the guard to constantly draw fire, so having the ability to resurrect the guard again can sometimes be very helpful. At rank 7, she unlocks an active ability called Soulmate, and this is also one of my favorite abilities and something that I'm actually using more often lately. Soulmate gives allies 3 tiles around Inanna the co-attack and co-defense buff. Co-attack increases your attack stat by up to 15%, and co-defense can increase your defense stat by up to 40%. It does require to have nearby allies though, so the 15% and 40% mentioned only works if you have 2 nearby allies, and if you have lesser than that, then the potency is reduced. Finally, at rank 11, she unlocks her ultimate called Flight of the Princess. This is her ultimate healing ability where, although she has to sacrifice 90% of her current health, she gains invisibility and healing 5, and extends the range of her auto healing on her trait by 2 times. This turns her into a very effective healing bot machine and can quickly turn the tides of battle if you find yourself severely hurt during the midst of battle. So in summary, Inanna is probably the best healer in the game, and she also carries the utility of debuff cleansing and allowing another unit to act again via her Princess Prayer ability. Special shout out to her Soulmate ability. This is something that I didn't really mention a lot in the last time I covered about Inanna, but like I said, I've been using this more and more often because it's an easy way to grant another plus 15% attack and plus 40% defense, although with limitations and conditions. But this stacks with any other buff, aura, and passive. Her guard, the defender unit, is a free unit, but it's actually a pretty squishy and weak unit overall, so don't expect it to do a lot of damage or protect your entire party reliably. But at least it does come with the ability to cover assist, so at the very least it draws 1 attack away, and can also land the speed down debuff, which can be very helpful, especially in boss fights. While she does specialize in healing, the only downside I think is her focus is too much on healing, and there's not many fights that requires that level of recovery and support. For example, we also have Cocoa, and many fights you can actually get by just by using Cocoa as your only healer in your party, and you really only need the Inanna level type of heals, say if you of course don't have any other healer, or you are trying to tackle very endgame content or PvP. That being said though, when you play strategy RPG games such as this, it is always of course the endgame content or the PvP content that you really need the healer anyway, so I don't really see this as a very huge downside. I guess the only other drawback to consider is since Inanna is not a new unit, she will only always be featured on a double feature banner. So if you want to pull for Inanna, you always only have to pull with the rate of a 37.5% chance to get her anytime you get a legendary unit. If you are fairly new to the game though, you can't really go wrong with Inanna. She will always be relevant because at the very least she has the Act Again ability, and Soulmate is a very easy way to stack on more attack and defense. So I feel that she is really worthy of your Luxites. That's it for this video, and as always, if you enjoyed the content, do leave a like, comment and subscribe. Till then, I'll catch you guys in the next banner review video. Bye!